Whether you use it for work or play, your Yamaha ATV, whatever model it is a unique machine. It's not like a four-wheel drive, it's not even like a motorcycle. It's something else altogether. And to get the most out of it, you need to get to know your ATV, as well as your own riding ability inside out. Safety is the watchword with any ATV. The power, performance and flexibility of these machines gives them the capability to tackle all sorts of terrain, weather conditions and difficult situations. And because of this, there can be the temptation to push beyond the limits. The results can lead to injury or death. And that's what this video is all about. Accidents on the farm or on the trail are just too common, so make sure you don't add to those statistics. Whether you're a novice or an old hand, you can benefit from the message in this video. Some of it might seem pretty basic, but frequently it's the most basic things that are overlooked and are the very things that bring you unstuck. Sometimes you may come up against a situation you don't expect, and it's too late to learn when you're in it. Better to be prepared. So do yourself a big favour. Spare a few minutes to sit down and go through this video. Replay parts that you need to get clear on and take a refresher look at it from time to time. Anything that helps you ride more safely is time well spent. It doesn't matter whether you're out on the job or off on an adventure. The right sort of clothing is essential to personal comfort and protection. For example, if you're heading off-road for fun, you need to invest in a full pro outfit. Off-road type, over-the-calf, ATV or motorcycle boots provide optimum protection for feet, ankles and legs. Off-road pants and a long sleeve top are both comfortable and a safeguard against cuts and scratches from the bush. For extra protection, you can add knee, elbow and shin pads, and even a chest protector. Off-road gloves that have padding over the knuckles are your best bet for hand protection and the more efficient wet weather grip. And of course, there's the most obvious piece of gear, the helmet. In the event of a spill, riding without a helmet increases your chances of serious injury or even death. Studies show that wearing a helmet doesn't interfere with essential vision or hearing. There's really no excuse. The full-face style with visor or goggles is best. Or if you go for an open-face style, add the mouth guard as well as the goggles. Whichever type of helmet you choose though, look for the appropriate standard sticker to ensure that it's up to the job. Keep it in good nick and replace it if it suffers any sort of hard impact, because the structure may be weakened even though you can't see it. Fit is very important. You should be comfortable with no obvious pressure anywhere, but it should be firm. Leave the chin strap undone and shake your head about. The helmet shouldn't slip if it's a proper fit. And of course, always do the chin strap up even if you're riding only a short distance. A helmet's no good to you at all if it doesn't stay on your head. Before we get off helmets, all the same rules apply for kids, which means the right fit and no substitutes like bicycle or skateboard skid lids. Okay, so maybe your ATV riding is done in work mode and you aren't up for this pro off-road gear, but the same basics apply in respect to protective clothing. You'll probably opt for this open-face style for working, but all the stuff I've covered about helmets still goes. Good, solid, over-the-ankle boots with low heels to keep your feet from slipping off the footrests. Sturdy, long pants and long sleeves on your top half. Decent quality gloves that retain grip, comfort and insulation even when wet. You might be tempted to get by just wearing sunnies, but you're heaps better off with a decent pair of goggles. A bug or branch that hits your face might distract you, but hitting your eyes can blind you for keeps. You can opt for tinted goggles for bright days and yellow for night riding or dull days, but clear gives you the all-round vision and protection day or night. Riding an ATV involves a lot of body movement, So it is a good idea to reduce the risk of muscle strain and injury by running through some basic warm-up and stretches before you get going. The best idea is to do a bit of a walk around to get your body warmed up. Then gently stretch all your main muscle groups: legs, arms, lower back, shoulders, neck and wrists. Hold each stretch for around 15 to 20 seconds and don't force it past your natural limits. As always, if you've got any doubts about being in shape to ride, check with your doctor. Maybe it sounds like stating the obvious, but you should get to know your ATV from top to bottom, front to back. Read the manual carefully and go over the machine thoroughly, so you know where every control is and how it works. There are also riding tips, load limit information for the carrier, as well as towing guidelines. Remember, every ATV will vary in some way, so even if you've ridden one for years, a new or different model needs checking out. It's a good idea to run a sort of a pre-flight check of the machine, and to make it easier, you can follow a system called T-clock. T-clock means tyres and wheels, controls and cables, lights and electrics, oils and fuel, chain, drive shaft and chassis. Tyres and wheels. Check the pressures are correct all round. Tyre pressure has a big effect on ATV handling, and as pressures are down in the 3 to 4 psi range, you'll need a special tyre gauge. Look for any cuts or gouges that might cause leaks or failure. Check the wheel nuts and axle nuts are tight and secure. Controls and cables. Make sure throttle and the other cables are in good shape and operate smoothly. Get on the brakes and see if they work smoothly and are within easy reach and adjusted as per the manual. If there is a foot shifter, make sure it's firmly attached and positioned for easy operation. Lights and electrics. Try your ignition switch by flicking it off and on during warm-up. Check that the kill switch works and see that the headlight and the tail lights work, just in case you get caught out after dark. Don't get stranded because you've run out of fuel or oil. Check that you've got a full tank and that oil levels are up to the mark. Go over the machine for any fuel or oil leaks and pull off the cover to make sure that the air filter element is in good condition, not torn or clogged with dirt. The chain and sprockets are a vital link between engine and wheels. Lubricate them regularly and make sure the chain is adjusted properly as per the manual, with no excessive slop. If your ATV's got a drive shaft rather than a chain, check for oil leaks and maintain the oil supply as recommended. Finally, go over the whole machine and check for any loose nuts, bolts or fittings. If you're taking the high road to adventure or even working at some distant corner of the property, you'll need to be self-sufficient in the case of an emergency, whether a breakdown or an accident. it pays to carry a toolkit that goes beyond the basic one supplied with the machine. A compact survival kit is a good idea too, the sort of thing a bushwalker would carry. Above all, always carry plenty of water. And like the smart boaties and hikers, let someone know where you're going and roughly when you'll be back. It makes good sense to cover yourself, just in case. Okay, so now it's just a case of jump on and whiz off, right? Wrong. Believe it or not, there is a way to get ready to ride that can save you some unhappy moments right at the start. Like this, for example. Getting on from the left-hand side means that you've got the shift lever in plain view. Jump on from the blind side and you can easily knock the gear lever. If the motor's running without the handbrake on, which it shouldn't be, or when you fire up the starter, the ATV can lurch forward and you can get thrown. Play it safe and follow a procedure we call Bone C. Brakes, on, neutral, engine, choke. Brakes. Make sure the parking brake is on. On. Turn on the fuel tap, and if your ATV has an ignition key, turn that on too. Neutral. Check that the transmission is in neutral or park. The neutral indicator will tell you this, or if necessary, release the parking brake, rock the machine back and forth, then pull the brake back on again. Engine. Make sure the kill switch is in the run or start position. Choke. If the engine's cold, pull the choke on, start up, then when the engine warms up, return the choke to its normal position. Well, if you followed the procedures up till now, you're off to a safe start. But now it's time to get down to the nuts and bolts of safe riding skills. So let's head out. To ride safely and get the best out of your ATV, you need to get in tune with your machine. This means not just sitting on it like a lump of wood and twisting the handlebars about. These machines are highly responsive and need to be treated with respect. So things like shifting your body weight around, applying throttle and brakes at the right time make a huge difference. To begin with, sit comfortably central on the seat. Too far back means you get lots of seesaw effect, and too far forward makes for cramped riding. Midway lets the machine work around you as a centre point. Have your head and eyes up, look well ahead. Keep your shoulders relaxed and back straight. Elbows should be bent slightly out away from your body and above the level of your hands on the handlebars. You might think it looks a bit weird, but it lets you use your upper body strength to turn easily rather than having to work hard with just your arm muscles. Obviously, keep both hands on the handlebars, knees tucked in towards the tank, and feet on the footrest with toes pointing straight ahead. Turns are one of those simple manoeuvres that can go very wrong if not properly executed. So it's a good idea to lay out a practice area and work on your turns until you've got the techniques down pat. Basically, you need to shift your body around and not just the upper body. Use your whole body to get the weight forward and to the inside of the turn. Turn the handlebars while looking towards the inside of the turn. As you increase speed or turn more sharply, get your weight even further towards the inside of the turn to maintain balance. If you feel the ATV starting to tip, lean more into the turn and if possible, gradually make the turn wider and ease off the power. Sharper turning or turning at higher speeds uses the same principles. It's just that you'll need to react quicker and lean more towards the inside of the turn to counteract the centrifugal forces. At times, particularly if you're out trail riding or chasing stock, you'll come across obstacles in your path. This means fast reaction, Still using the weight shift concept to change direction, but with a couple of little extra tricks. This is how it goes. You spot the obstacle and you need to act fast. Keep your feet on the footrest for maximum control and raise slightly off the seat without standing. Then as you shift your weight, give a short burst of throttle. Look well ahead and let the ATV move underneath you. Of course, if you feel any sign of tipping, drop your speed and straighten the handlebars and lean more into the turn. Safe braking is an absolute must. In many cases, you'll have time to come to a slow stop, so it may not seem so critical. But other times, you're going to have to get onto the brakes fast, or find yourself having to swerve suddenly and brake quickly. It's then that the art of safe braking really pays off. As a general rule, the front brake is superior because the weight is transferred to the front tyres. Even on a four-wheel drive ATV, using the front brakes is better, as it in effect brakes all the wheels. I'll show you what I mean. Let's start with an easy one, a gradual straight line stop. Release the throttle, allowing the engine braking to slow the ATV. Then apply both brakes equally with a steady, controlled pressure. Remember to keep your head and eyes up and your feet on the footrests. If you've got to slow down to take a turn, it's best to do most of your braking before you're into the turn. Avoid excessive braking when actually cornering. And while on the subject of heavy braking, give it a miss on slippery surfaces. In those conditions, apply both brakes lightly and keep your eyes open for the area that offers the best possible traction. But you've always got to be prepared for the unexpected. You might need to stop rapidly or swerve to avoid obstacles like fallen trees, washouts, an animal that darts in front of you, or even another rider as you round a bend. To reduce the potential for nasty surprises, always ride within your ability. Slow down as you crest a hill or go into a turn, and never ride past your limit of visibility. If you have to get onto the brakes fast, use your body weight to maintain balance. Use both brakes. Keep your feet on the footrests, and if you accidentally lock up the wheels, ease off the brakes a touch and then apply them again more gradually. Sometimes you'll have to swerve quickly and brake to avoid an unexpected obstacle. As before, keep your feet on the footrests. Look in the direction of the swerve and shift your weight to the inside of the turn. Most importantly though, don't brake while swerving. Swerve first, then brake when the ATV is travelling in a straight line. It's better to avoid obstacles if you can, even if it means turning around and taking a different path. Getting impatient and trying to take a shortcut by climbing a large obstacle improperly could spell real drama. Small obstacles can be crossed in safety if you follow strict procedures. Of course, if your ATV has four-wheel drive, use it as the best option. Approach the obstacle as close to 90 degrees as possible. Stand on the footrest and keep your elbows and knees flexed so your arms and legs can work like shock absorbers. This makes you better prepared to shift your body weight as needed. Adjust your approach speed without losing momentum. If only the wheels on one side are passing over the obstacle, let the momentum carry you. Stay off the throttle and don't try pulling up on the handlebars and lifting the front wheels. If all wheels are crossing, then apply a little bit of throttle as the front wheels make contact. As they clear the obstacle, lean your body forward and back off the juice. Hills are a fact of life when riding, and they need to be treated with a lot of respect. Put simply, once you get off the flat ground, the potential to flip grows, and the steeper the hill, the greater the potential. Safe riding techniques are vital, of course, but the first rule is to use your head. If the hill looks too steep, it probably is. If you've got any doubts, don't go there. Find another path. Ride within your ability at all times, and just because you've got tons of experience, don't get overconfident. Some hills will just be too steep no matter how good you are. But let's look at the techniques for hills that are within your ability to tackle. As always, suss out the terrain before you head downhill and pick a path that's as straight as possible with the least number of obstacles. Keep your speed low and allow the engine to help the braking effect. If your ATV has four-wheel drive, use it. Adopt the standing position to allow more flexibility of movement and shift your weight to the rear of the ATV to maintain balance. And remember, look ahead. When brakes are needed, apply them gradually and steadily. Going uphill demands the same level of common sense and skill as going downhill. An automatic transmission will do the job for you, but if you are on a semi-auto, drop into a lower gear and speed up before you start climbing so you maintain momentum. Keep your feet firmly on the footrests. Move well up on the seat and lean forward, or stand and get your torso over the front wheels. As you climb, you might find you need to knock it down a gear to prevent the ATV from labouring or even stalling. If your ATV is automatic, using low range may be a good idea, so keep your body weight well forward, especially on steep hills. When you shift, make it quick and just back off the throttle for a moment as you do. This helps to stop the front wheels lifting off. Play it safe every time. Don't ride past the limits of your visibility. If you can't see what's on or over the crest of the hill, slow down till you can and stand up to improve your range of vision. You won't always make it to the top in one go. Sometimes you're going to find you haven't got enough momentum to make it, or you may even stall altogether. So let's take a look at how to handle this situation safely. So here you are running out of steam. You know you're not going to make it, so you'll have to act immediately. Keep your weight uphill and use the front brake. When you stop, apply the rear brake as well, then the parking brake. Now climb off on the uphill side if the machine's on an angle, or to either side if it is pointed straight uphill. Physically manhandle the ATV around, remount, and head downhill using all the usual downhill riding techniques. A couple of points to stress about hills. If the ATV stalls on the climb and starts rolling backwards, don't only apply the rear brakes. You could easily flip over backwards. If your forward momentum has stopped, all the brakes are on and the machine still wants to roll or slide backwards, get off quickly. Don't try to ride backwards down a hill. And if you don't manage to get up the hill, it may be too steep for safety. Don't lose your cool and keep trying to beat it. It'll more than likely result in you having a nasty accident. Maybe you'll need to go across a slope. If the hill is too steep, it's safer to traverse it rather than go straight up or down. But it's a tricky manoeuvre all the same, and you should give it a miss if the surface is very slippery, rough or loose. But if you do have to traverse, here's some essential clues. Keep both feet firmly on the footrests. Body weight is even more important here, so get it well over to the uphill side. If the ground is soft, you might need to keep the ATV tracking on a straight line by gently turning the front wheels uphill. Don't make sudden throttle changes. Keep it slow, steady and controlled, and keep a sharp lookout ahead for any holes or obstacles that could upset the balance in this already tricky situation. If the machine starts to tip, get even more weight into the uphill position and turn the wheels downhill if possible. But if the terrain prevents this and you sense the ATV tipping, dismount on the uphill side immediately. Just blundering out across the landscape can give you some nasty surprises. So if you want to enjoy your ATV riding, plan to ride strategically. What does that mean? Well, it means looking ahead to read the terrain, being alert for hazards, plotting a safe course, choosing appropriate speeds for the conditions, and riding within your ability. Not go charging off hoping luck and your ego will get you through. To remind you of how to ride strategically, think C. Search, evaluate, execute. Search. Keep your eyes moving and search the terrain. Check the overall environment. Watch several seconds ahead and avoid fixating on any one point. Identify hazards, pick out specific problems and consider such things as surface composition, other trail users, wildlife and stationary objects. Evaluate what will happen. Think of the consequences. Consider appropriate riding techniques and predict the outcomes of your choices. Decide what to do. Slow down so there's time to react. Pick the best line or path taking into account traction, obstacles within your skill levels and visibility, choose to reduce risks, and choose to stay well within your personal limits and the capability of the ATV. Execute the decision, adjust your technique, speed and path of travel. Okay, this is probably a good time to use the C principle. Got to scan and search, evaluate, and then execute my decision. I've got some loose rocks over here. We'll just get around those small little twigs. Got to be careful here, don't puncture a tyre. Okay, I've got some small logs coming up. I'm going to cross those as close to 90 degrees as possible. Just climb over those nice and gently. A little bit of a tree to my right. Crawl over that. Now I've got another log here. Got to be real careful here. Just crawl over it steady. Keep central on the machine. Walk across the top between those two logs. We're pretty clear now, just a little bit more debris on the ground, walk over that one. Now and then you may find yourself in more unusual riding environments. Deep sand, dry riverbeds, creek crossings or muddy ground. All these situations require some special techniques and precautions. So let's take a closer look. As you approach an access point, engage four-wheel drive if you've got it, and select the lower gear that will pull you through and move at a steady pace. Momentum is the key to soft sand travel. You need enough of it to float rather than churning through and possibly bogging down. Gear changes in soft sand will often cause rapid loss of momentum and digging in. If you get bogged, reverse out if possible and try again. Or you can engage a low gear and try to gently edge forward and out. Revving up and spinning your wheels will most likely just dig you in deeper. Riding on dunes themselves is generally forbidden. Damage to vegetation creates instability and can have far-reaching environmental effects. However, you may find yourself crossing dunes in an area where it is allowed. This demands a healthy respect for safety. Dunes are constantly changing shape and size, so what you crossed safely last week or even yesterday can be hazardous today. Some dunes, such as parabolic dunes, feature a gradual slope up one side and a sheer drop over the crest. If you do find yourself in dune crossing conditions, exercise great care. Use C, reduce speed and ride within the limits of visibility. If you encounter a water crossing, don't just plough in. It could be a lot deeper than it actually looks with a very soft bottom. Do a recce first, walk it if necessary, and when you do cross, do it sensibly. The obvious thing is to try to use an established crossing point like a ford or causeway. But if there isn't one, it is the case of plotting the best path. You need to consider the depth of the water, how fast it's flowing, the condition of the bottom. Is it full of holes, big rocks, snags, loose boulders, sticky mud or soft sand? And you need to look at the entry and exit points. How steep are they? Are they likely to be slippery or boggy? In other words, do your homework up front. It's too late once you're in it. Shifting your body weight around is a key point in order to maintain balance and maximum traction. For example, you may need to rock the ATV from side to side to work it out of a hole. Keep moving at a slow, steady speed and avoid obstacles and slippery rocks. Your exit point may be muddy or steep or both. Keep the ATV moving at a speed which allows the knobby tyres to bite. Revving hard and spinning your wheels will only dig you in, covering you in mud and getting you nowhere fast. Once you're clear, keep in mind that wet brakes don't work well. If necessary, apply them a few times to dry them out before you need to use them for real. If your ATV has to earn its keep, it's going to be hauling stuff around the paddocks, and that brings a whole lot of other factors into play. These are mighty little workhorses for sure, but you need to be aware of their limits and how a load or a trailer can drastically affect stability and handling, and of course, safety. Let's look at loading for starters. Check out your carry racks and make sure they're in good condition. Load the rack so that the weight is as low as possible, making sure it doesn't interfere with controls and your ability to see where you're going or to shift your body weight. Keep sharp objects away from the rider's position. Keep the load centralised on the racks for better balance and control, and make sure the load is secure. Don't overload either. All Yamaha ATV manuals suggest the maximum loads for front and rear. And on the subject of weight, if you're using spray tanks, keep in mind that 1 litre of fluid equals 1 kilogram, plus the weight of the equipment. Exercise extra care when carrying heavy loads. If your ATV has four-wheel drive, use it, and keep the machine in low gear or low range if it is a full automatic model. Finally, if you load it up, give difficult terrain a big miss. If you're going to tow, aim for an ideal 15 kilogram ton ball weight and keep the towing point on the bottom of the chassis rear differential area. Keep the trailer load secure and packed low, and take care to observe weight recommendations as detailed in your Yamaha ATV manual. Once again, if your ATV has four-wheel drive, use it and stay in low gear or low range if your machine is fully automatic. Choose terrain carefully. Avoid hills and rough terrain. If you're working in muddy conditions, it's ideal to have the trailer tyres similar to the ATVs. Some handy rules of thumb to remember: the more weight you carry, the slower you go. Avoid making sharp turns unless you're moving at very low speed. And keep in mind that heavy loads take longer to pull up, so allow more braking distance than usual. There may be times when you want to transport your ATV. Whether you're using a trailer, ute or truck, there are proper techniques and procedures that will ensure your safety. To start with, make sure you pick a suitable site to load or unload. Then check the transport vehicle is in gear with the engine off and the park brake on. Next, if ramps are being used, see that they're secured to the back of the vehicle or trailer, that you aren't about to exceed their carrying capacity, that the tray of the vehicle is clear of obstacles, and that the wheels of the ATV are centered over the ramps. Now remove any loads from the ATV. Check that it's in first gear, low range, and if it's got four-wheel drive, use it. Once you're loaded up, take time to secure the ATV properly. Be sure it's centered for correct weight distribution and that the park brake is applied. Use only approved straps and harnesses that are in good condition. Secure the ATV front and rear using the appropriate strong points on the ATV and the transport vehicle. If in doubt, seek advice from your Yamaha dealer. And finally, ensure that any other objects are secured so that the ATV is not damaged by shifting loads. Well, that's more or less it. The basics that you need to know and practice if you want to ride safely. It's not the full story, of course, but much of it comes down to common sense. Stuff like not carrying passengers, respecting property owners' rights, and taking care of the environment and avoiding drugs and alcohol whilst riding. Despite jokes about being big boys' toys, ATVs are not toys. They can be a willing workhorse and a hell of a lot of fun. But ignorance, carelessness, and pushing beyond the limits of the ATV or your own ability can cause you a lot of grief. In the end, if you want to get the most out of your ATV, there's just one way to go. Ride smart, ride safe.